Well, greetings. May the Lord God bless you. And I thank you for watching this video. It's going to be the story about Noah. And I remind you, these stories are based on the Bible with some details added to make the story more interesting, and hopefully not taking anything away from scriptures. And if you think I added something that is inappropriate or wrong, please let me know. I'm more than willing to look at it, discuss it, and try and explain my viewpoint and try and understand yours. So, with that said, Noah. Noah was the son of Lamech, and he was proud of his father. His grandfather Methuselah spent a great deal of time with him, and he really loved his grandfather. His great-great-grandfather Jared and his great-great-great-grandfather Mahalalel and his great-great-great-great-grandfather Kenan lived quite a distance from Noah's home. But when they came to visit, Noah loved to hear about their lives. So one day, Noah, his father Lamech, and his grandfather Methuselah were sitting around a toasty, warm fire, just chatting as the sun went down. His father and grandfather were telling Noah stories about some of their ancestors. They both loved to share stories they had heard direct from Adam himself about what life was like in the Garden of Eden, and Noah never tired of those stories. His grandfather sometimes had trouble holding back his laughter about some of the stories about Adam. Noah also really loved hearing his grandfather Methuselah talk about Noah's great-grandfather Enoch. Enoch inspired Noah to be the best man he could possibly be. He wished he could have met his great-grandfather Enoch. His father and his grandfather also inspired him, but there was something about the way they talked about his great-grandfather that just really inspired him. So, one day, Noah was walking along. Now, his father and grandfather had raised him to respect God, and he was very frustrated by the way most people were ignoring God. But one day, God spoke to Noah, and Noah was shocked. God told Noah, "Noah, you are different from other people. I appreciate that about you. I am tired of watching people live evil and immoral lives. So I'm going to destroy all mankind." Noah was stunned, and he started to interrupt, but God continued, "Because of the way you live, and because of your love for me, I'm going to save you and your family." Noah was speechless, wondering what to say. He was having trouble wrapping his mind around all of this. God spoke to him just like the stories of when he had spoken with his great-grandfather Enoch. Even his grandfather Methuselah had spoken to God. And now God was speaking to Noah. Oh, wow. Noah's trying to wrap his head around what God had said. He's going to wipe out all mankind, but he's going to save my family. Then he wondered, how's God going to save us? And from what destruction? Now, God talked to Noah for a while, and Noah felt love in a greater way than he had ever felt before. After quite some time, God told Noah, "I know the questions you have, and we will talk again in the future. In the meantime, I want you to build an ark." "An ark?" Noah interjected. God chuckled. "Yes, an ark. A really big ark. I'm going to cleanse the earth with a massive flood. So make the ark 450 feet long, and 75 feet wide, and 45 feet tall." Noah said, "God, that's huge. My family doesn't need that big an ark." God smiled. "I know, but I also want you to save animals. Lots and lots of animals." God continued and gave Noah detailed instructions describing what would use and even little things like the roof with openings and on all sides, and the door, and 3 decks. He told Noah the ark would also have to hold lots of food for his family and for all of the animals. He said, you're going to be on this ark for a while. So Noah went home to tell his wife and sons about his conversation with God. His wife listened to Noah's story with respect and admiration. She was very proud of her husband and knew that he was very different from other men. His sons questioned him for quite a while, and Noah could tell they were wondering if he'd been working too hard out in the sun at first. But as Noah told them all the details of what God had shared with them, he could see them beginning to believe him. His son Shem was the first to become excited, and it didn't take much longer for Japheth and Ham to become excited at the thought of just talking to God. Soon Noah, Japheth, Shem, and Ham began building the ark. As they built the ark, God would occasionally stop by to talk to Noah. Those times became very precious to Noah. And every once in a while, God would take a little time out to talk to Noah's sons, and they were thrilled for each moment of those conversations. Those conversations helped the men endure the mocking of other people. They knew everyone thought they were deluded, but they simply became more resolute to complete the ark exactly the way God wanted it built. They'd never been more motivated to do their very best work at all possible. So, eventually, after the ark was completed, the day came when God told Noah that over the next 7 days, all of the animals would arrive to be loaded. Noah admitted he had wondered about the animals, but God said, I've got it covered. I've got it covered. Noah also asked God about the door. It was massive and it had been built in the open position. It was too heavy for them to close, and Noah was concerned about whether or not it would close tight. God assured Noah he had that covered too. The next 7 days were astounding to Noah and his family. God was there as the first animals arrived, and they simply walked up the ark, the ramp into the ark, and they went to the exact pen that was built for them. Each one to their own specifically built pen. Japheth was the first to point out the animals came in pairs. Some animals had just 1 pair of animals, while other animals had 7 pairs. Noah asked God why that was. God said, the animals come in pairs so they can reproduce and repopulate the earth. The animals that come in 7 pairs are animals that I consider clean, meaning animals that are acceptable for you to eat and acceptable for you to use for offerings and sacrifices, as I will teach you. Hearing that, Shem's smile grew into a massive face-covering smile, with his eyes almost sparkling. Noah asked Shem why he was wearing such a massive smile, and Shem said, don't you understand? God just said he's going to teach us more. Noah interrupted with, and? Shem continued, that means God's going to keep talking to us. Noah's wife began to laugh. His sons' wives began to laugh. And then the men looked at their wives, and then they looked at each other, and they all began to laugh. God was standing nearby, smiling. And then he was gone. Now, when all the animals were loaded, God closed the ramp, which was the door. The clouds became darker, and more clouds rolled across the sky. It didn't take long before the rain began to fall. Now, it was a pleasant, soft rain at first. Then it became stronger and stronger. Water began to just rise up out of the ground. Then the ark broke loose from the frame it had been built on, the frame that had supported it as they built it. The wind was creating very large waves. It was all very frightening. The family gathered together, holding hands, fearful about what was happening. Noah reminded them many times over the next 40 days that God had promised to save them. He also reminded them that they had a lot of work to do. Heads nodded, and Noah said, don't forget, that includes cleaning out the manure from all the pens. Everyone groaned and smiled. Their days were filled with a great deal of work and occasional family gatherings where they would sing hymns of praise to God. Japheth's wife wrote a song and hesitantly shared it. Everyone loved it, and they were very impressed by her song. They encouraged her to write more songs. Noah shared the stories his father and grandfather had shared with him. Each day, Ham made a notch in the railing around the family's living area. Everyone was amazed at how docile the animals were. They were so easy to care for, except cleaning up the stinky manure. Ham always reminded anyone who complained about that, at least we can just throw it in the water. Well, on the morning of the 48th day, something was different. Noah's wife was the first to figure it out. She exclaimed, "The storm is done. The boat isn't rocking, and I can see the sun shining through the openings around the roof." All of a sudden, everyone was wide awake. They rushed out onto the deck and started shouting praises to God, and Noah began to dance. Everyone watched him for a couple minutes before joining his dance. Then after a while, they stopped dancing and looked around. The mountains were gone. They'd all grown up in the shadow of the great mountains. The sun was shining, the sky was clear, but all they could see was water. Water in every direction as far as they could see. Eventually, one day, no one had counted Ham's notches in quite a while. The ark shuddered and lurched. Everyone rushed outside, and they could see only water. But clearly the ark had hit something. It was no longer moving. Ham rushed over and counted his notches. The first 7 were slanted to the right. They represented the 7 days before the rain. The next 40 notches were slanted to the left. They represented the days of rain. Since those 47 notches, there were 150 notches straight up and down. Ham announced they'd been on the ark for 197 days. He left a large gap and made a fresh notch. Life continued with its boring monotony, but everyone was feeling more cheerful and they sang more often. As they were working, someone would start a song in one area and somebody nearby would join in, and then others would join in. When Noah's big booming voice started, everyone smiled. Noah knew he was a lousy singer, but he surely did love to sing, especially praises to God. Every morning they all gathered on the deck to look around. After 10 new notches, Ham spotted some land off in the distance, but they were still not moving. 2 days later, Japheth's wife looked straight down and she announced with a huge smile, "I can see the land below us." Everyone looked down and they all began dancing some more. That was becoming more and more common. Every few days, a few more pieces of land became visible. Everyone knew they were mountaintops, and after 75 of the new notches, there were a lot of mountaintops available. And after another 40 of new notches, Noah sent out a raven. The raven never returned. Every few days, somebody would see it flying nearby, but it just didn't return to them. They could not see the top of the ark, but they were fairly certain the raven rested there occasionally. A couple days later, Noah released a dove, but it returned to Noah right away, and he brought it back into the ark. 7 days after Noah released the raven, Noah sent out the dove again. The dove returned, and everyone was very excited because it held a thin twig from an olive tree. Ham counted all of his notches, and they totaled 319. 7 days after the dove returned with the olive twig, Noah sent the dove out again. This time, it didn't return. 397 days from loading the ark, Noah released the massive door, and it landed with a thud. His family released all of the animals. The animals left the ark in a very calm procession. Once the animals were off the ark, Noah gathered his family, and they walked off the ark together. Noah noticed a few animals still on the ark. He realized God had kept them for him to offer sacrifices to God. So when they left the ark, Noah built an altar to offer a sacrifice to God. God was pleased, and he came to Noah's family one last time. God told Noah and his sons to prosper and fill the earth. Noah remembered hearing that God had told Adam and Eve the exact same thing. Then God created a rainbow in the sky and told them, "This will be my sign. It will be a reminder for you that I will never flood the planet again."